I'm Wayne Miller. I'm the Executive Director of the Venture Center. And we have a great program for today with LiftTheRock, with Scott McGee and also Jay Cheshire, who has just walked in. Good to see you, Jay. Thanks for making it. It just gives me more material, Jay. Thank you. I'm good to go. LiftTheRock is one of the programs that we produce here at the Venture Center, and I know you all have probably kind of seen our mantra before, which is about educate, collaborate, and accelerate. And we usually talk about what we do. Today, I'd like to talk just really briefly about why do we do this here at the Venture Center. So when we start with the education piece, the Venture Center was really established 4 years ago by James Hendren and others to really be a gateway in Central Arkansas for people who have ideas and for entrepreneurs to their future, and to build investable companies. So our effort here through how we educate people through things like LiftTheRock, through things like our Jolt Hackathon, through our pre-accelerator program, things, for example, like Pitch and Pint, is to help grow the workforce, to help economic development, and to give people a true place to start. And one of the things about today, and as we hear from Scott, is also helping to inspire people to start businesses, which take a great deal of courage and a lot of inspiration, and as Scott can tell you, a lot of perspiration as well. When it comes to the collaborate piece, we can't do this on our own, nor do we profess to try to. And we really work with three entities there when you think about that. That is working with universities, where great ideas come from, and not always a clear path to how to bring those to market. Working with corporations and helping them innovate, which big companies don't do particularly well, particularly at this level of granularity, working with early stage companies. And the last piece is working with the other entrepreneurial service organizations throughout the state. Organizations like Conductor, organizations like Innovate Arkansas, the Innovation Hub, and also Startup Junkie up in Northwest Arkansas. So we work together to sort of lift all boats, as they say in the state of Arkansas, and make what I believe to be the land of opportunity a great place for people to start businesses. There's a lot of places you can do that in the world. I'm not sure why you'd start one in San Francisco or New York, right? Just the concept of what you pay for rent. And you all think you have traffic here, right? It's congestion. That's they have traffic there. It goes away here quickly. So the good news is this is a great place to do it. It's a great environment. And of course, the other things that we have here are about the access that we have to people. You're 1 or 2 degrees of separation when you need results and you need help. It's really remarkable. During the kickoff for the FIS program this year, the mayor stood up and gave everybody his cell phone number. I don't think they do that in Manhattan, right? So we're pretty fortunate. So that really builds the collaborate piece. And like I said, the last piece is really about working with corporations like FIS, like the ICBA, who we do with our accelerators in the FinTech program, and really help these big organizations effectively innovate. The metaphor is always there's sort of this giant battleship of these companies. And these guys who are here with us for this accelerator program here for the next 12 weeks, these are early stage companies. And how do they get the attention of that battleship when they're battling and paddling around in their little kayak? So we act as the guy who helps opens the door on the side of that vessel and begins to create a method for them to communicate and do that effectively so that they can build their businesses, so we can solve real problems, which is where we begin, and so forth. So our acceleration programs are probably what we're known for the most, just because of the impact that we've had here in the community. But it is about this community, it is about you guys, it is about how we serve you. That is our purpose. You are our customers, and how do we help entrepreneurs do a great job and grow their businesses with your help. Pause here. There we go. We, as we talk about being collaborative, of course, can't do this without the help of the Little Rock Tech Park, which enables us to be here up on the 6th floor, and also the chamber, which Jay's going to talk to you about today, who was very instrumental in also helping find the Venture Center and make this what this is today as we approach our 4th year in business. So many people help us in this community to present these programs, and more importantly, to help support the efforts to make the people that are part of our programs successful. It's back there. There we go. Connecting with us is easy, whether it's a tweet, on Instagram, etc. Please follow us. I think most of you learned about this program and what's happening here today as a result of social, which is so important. We take a very active role in social and really want you folks to know what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it and the impact that it's having on our community and helping it become a better place. There we go. So that being said, let me go back here. Whoops. And I'd like to start with introducing Jay Cheshire today. I got to this town 2 years ago in a couple of weeks, and Most of you know I came from the Northeast. I've learned to say y'all. I eat fried catfish pretty regularly now. So, and I actually live downtown, which is great until the blowers start at about 4:30 in the morning, right? But we're learning to deal with that too. But you know, one of the reasons that I came to this community was because of the Venture Center and the team that I encountered here, but also folks like Jay, who is just a great example of someone who's been a great mentor to me, whose dedication to this community is extraordinary. And there's a couple little dirty secrets I'll tell you about him, but I may hold some of those till later. But what I do want to do is just real quickly read kind of his bio a little bit and what they gave us in the chamber. Have you seen this before, sir? So this will be interesting. Why, you don't like my reading? We'll take it from there. So on May 19, 2006, Jay Cheshire became the 15th president and CEO of the Greater Little Rock Regional Chamber of Commerce, which is in its 143rd year. He began his career at the Little Rock Regional Chamber in February of 2005, serving as Economic Development Vice President, Senior Staff Executive for 50 for the Future, and the Executive Director of Metro Little Rock Alliance, an 11-county economic development marketing coalition dedicated to Central Arkansas, becoming recognized as a premier location for new and expanding businesses within the Mid-South. Under Jay's leadership, the Chamber has directly worked with projects accounting over $2.1 billion in expanded capital investment for the region, with more than 15,000 jobs and $489 million in new annual payroll. That is remarkable, Jay. Awesome job. Lastly, I want to share something you probably don't know about Jay, which is his passion for dogs. Does anybody know that Jay loves labs? And Jay got into the business of raising dogs because as a duck hunter, he wanted to have better dogs, and he didn't like the way other folks were training dogs, so he took this on route. I'll tell you that I was driving back to Delaware a year or so ago, and I'm driving down the road, and Jay goes all over the country to do this, and I saw a pickup truck, and the license plate on the back of the pickup truck was black labs, and I thought, oh, I got to take a picture of that and send that to Jay. Of course I did, and he says, well, those are the Smiths, I know them. So it's great stuff. It's an honor to have you here, Jay, and to talk to us a little bit about entrepreneurship here in Central Arkansas, how the Chamber's helping us with that, and maybe a little bit on your vision for the future. Everybody, Jay Cheshire, please.
Thank you, and you'll be very pleased to know that it will not be death by PowerPoint. So there is no PowerPoint, and when Wayne and the team reached out to see if I would be willing to do this, my answer was absolutely yes, because I think this is a great example of an overnight success whose origins we can talk about the port, we can talk about a lot of economic development, things that have occurred that people think just happened and was successful. What people don't realize is, go back to 2003. I'm in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And for those of you that know Hot Springs, it's a great place to live. That was when the early advent of working from home began to be a thing that corporations were looking to do. And I thought, you know, what better place in America to attract people, to have people working from home or in a beautiful setting than Hot Springs, Arkansas. And so I decided that we go down the line of trying to create a Hot Springs technology park. So if you're driving down the bypass, or excuse me, the expressway, used to kill me when people called it a bypass. But you're driving down the expressway on the southern side of the Hot Springs Airport, you'll see the Hot Springs Technology Park sign. And the thought process was, with UAMS and their BioVentures facility, basically taking research to a commercialization perspective, I thought, what better place than to start with the then director of UAMS BioVentures, Dr. Tim O'Brien, and come talk to him about how Hot Springs wanted to be the place where, as those companies outgrew the BioVentures facility, which isn't very big, that we would create a place for them. So I made an appointment with Dr. O'Brien. If you don't know him, he's a great Irish medical researcher and doctor. And I went and I made this wonderful presentation, at least I thought, to Dr. O'Brien. And when I finished, he looked at me and in a beautiful Irish lilt said, now, granted this is 2003, he said, "You're too far away." looked at him and I said, well, Dr. O'Brien, I don't know if you've been to Hot Springs lately, but it's like 50 minutes. He said, what you don't understand is if we're creating an isotope to inject into someone or something from a research purpose, it has a half-life of X. He said, and what that means is if you're not within 8 minutes of where we're currently sitting, that isotope is worthless when it gets there. And he said, I appreciate your passion, I appreciate what you're trying to do. He said, but you're just too far away in terms of what we're doing. And so I left, went back and started going a different direction. Fast forward a couple of years later, and on February the 14th of 05, I was hired to come here and work first as the Metro Little Rock Alliance Executive Director in Economic Development in the Chamber. And the very first reception that I went to at the Chamber, Dr. O'Brien was there. And I didn't think he remembered me, but I walked up and I said, Dr. O'Brien, you probably don't remember me. I'm the kid that came to you and wanted to, to create a Hot Springs Technology Park Farm Club for you. And in his beautiful Irish lilt, he said, oh, yes, and I think he was just lying. He didn't remember me. He said, I remember. And I said, well, I'm curious. I'm now over here. I don't know if you know, but I'm now over here. Where's your technology and research part? And in his beautiful Irish lilt, twinkle in his eye, grin on his face, he said, we were waiting on you to get here. And interestingly enough, Dixon Flake and a group of folks in what was then termed the Biotechnology Committee were meeting a couple of weeks later, and this is in late February of 05, and went into that meeting and I said, what if we look at creating something like this? And so they decided to take it on. And Dixon Flake, if you ever get a chance, if you don't know him, you need to meet him, but if you ever get a chance to meet him or you know him, you need to hug him. Because this 80-something-year-old man who works far more hours than we do, literally took this thing by a rope and pulled it to the point where you're sitting in the first successful phase of the tech park today. And I won't go through the whole story about how we got here, but as we were going through the process of looking at creating this, we first had to have enabling legislation. So in 2007, we went to Governor Huckabee and asked him to put in his legislative package the authorization to create tech park authorities only in places that had research institutions who would agree to be a sponsor of the actual tech park. Because we didn't think that Arkansas needed a whole ton of these things. In fact, didn't think that likely at the time, because we were looking at the bio side, that there was really any more than a couple of places in Arkansas where it would work. We got that done. We then started gathering money from Arkansas Children's Hospital, UAMS, UA Little Rock, and the city of Little Rock with some seed funding to create the feasibility of what would this, first of all, feasibility be for a research and technology park. And then secondly, if it's feasible, what would be some possible locations? And back in those days, the research triangle in North Carolina was, the bomb. That was the best there was in the country. And so the thought process that we had, as well as those consultants, was that we would be somewhere in the metroplex, so to speak. We'd find 30 acres or so that you basically could build the old style business park, and that would be your technology and research park. Well, for those of you that were here during that time, you know that we made tons of mistakes. Tons. And yet, in making those mistakes, it gave us an opportunity to rethink what this should be, number one, that we didn't have time to work bio projects, because 12 to 15 years before the commercialization becomes profitable, we couldn't take that time and make something work from a funding standpoint and make it successful. So we began to look more at the technology side, and then I had the opportunity, a friend of mine was running the Durham, North Carolina Chamber, and if you've ever been to Durham, they took a bunch of old tobacco warehouses in downtown Durham and turned them into one of the most amazing entrepreneurial ecosystems in the country. In fact, the Research Triangle is now envious of what Durham has done, because they basically passed them in terms of the place that young entrepreneurs wanted to be. And so I spent a whole day over there, and we began to talk about the actual location for where this would be. And long story short, in that regard, the board finally voted to put it downtown. And the reason why it's here is because we made a bunch of mistakes to get to that point. But once we made those mistakes and got it right, we also realized that there were a lot of, quote, technology parks across the country that were basically empty, dark, and crickets. We'd seen that happen in Arkansas, and so in doing our research and looking at Wake Forest, looking at the biogenerator, looking at other places across the country, including Durham and others, we realized that we had to have an entity that would drive the entrepreneurial process. That first of all, Little Rock and its economy wasn't very entrepreneurial because we couldn't see it. All these people were here, but there was no place for them to be, to learn, to grow, number one. Number two, that if we were ever going to take this economy, which is a battleship, so when you look at healthcare, when you look at government, and you look at universities and colleges, those three things effectively create 33% of the jobs in this community. Now, those are good jobs, but they're not going to grow 10%. At the same time, they're not going to fall 10% in many cases. And so we were trying to come up with a way to drive that entrepreneurial spirit and create, as folks in James Hendren will laugh when I say this, velocity in the economy. They used to laugh at me when I said that. We have to create some velocity in the economy. And so when we were looking around trying to find out, well, who's going to program this space? How are we going to help entrepreneurs? Just having space won't do it. And we didn't have anything. We didn't have anyone. And we happened upon a couple of folks, Lee Watson and Mike Steely, for those of you that know Lee and Mike. And they had this idea, based upon what was going on at the Nashville Entrepreneurial Center, to create such a thing. I didn't have I need help using the TV remote. So I have to call my kids if something's not right. So I had no idea if what they were saying really had any validity. So I called James Hendren one day and said, look, would you vet this? Because I have no clue if this is even what we're talking about. Well, unfortunately, James answered the phone and said yes, because since then, he has been drugged as he's actually led this process to get to this point where you have the Venture Center today. It started as a startup. We had no money, we had no space. I went to the executive committee of the chamber and said, let's put it down here. They can't pay for anything, we'll help staff it. We hired a staffer. Those of you that remember Jordan Carlisle, he became one of the first staffers for the entity. And from those origins, amazing things began to happen. You know, our first space, temporary, was where Hertz Donuts is now. And Aptigee, for those of you that know Justin and the team there, was one of the first groups, and there were all of three of them, to basically lease some desks to begin this entrepreneurial journey under the mentorship and leadership of the Venture Center. And obviously that's been a huge success. They just recently hired their 100th person and have 50 more that they're trying to get to. And I could go on and on from the standpoint of what the Venture Center has done, but moving a little bit further, we also realized that some of our most entrepreneurial companies were leaving. Verizon purchased Altel. Axiom began to exit. And so some of we're talking about thousands of jobs. Some of our most entrepreneurial and technology-based jobs were going away. And we didn't know what to do other than to try to make at least a point to some of them that, hey, you can do it cheaper, you can do it faster, you can do it with the same talented people in a far more efficient way here than on either coast. And at the very first Venture Center board meeting, I was talking about, I made this presentation to a company CEO, and that it was our hope that he would agree to utilize the existing experience that existed in this community at that time to do an accelerator of some sort. Well, it was not met with significant exuberance, I guess is a nice way of saying it. And so I didn't think it was going to happen, but it just so happened a guy by the name of Chris Klein from FIS, who I'd never met before, was on the board of the Venture Center. Again, it's our very first board meeting. And at a break, he came up to me and said, would you guys be willing to consider doing that with us? And I turned around and I said, I don't know what that means, but absolutely, because this other company's just not going to do it. That led to a conference call being set up with Gary Norcross, the CEO of FIS, and what you see around you is the fourth iteration result of that. And I will also tell you, as would James, as would Wayne, as would Jim Womble, and all of the members of the board and the people engaged in it, that no one ever dreamt it could get from those origins, because we were trying to cobble together money to make this work. There was no state money in it that first year. It was FIS and us. And cobble that together to make something work that I think they thought initially would just be a marketing thing, that has turned into one of the most innovative programs for the largest fintech company in the world that allows them to innovate in ways they never thought possible. And so as you look around, and as these companies are with us for 12 weeks, and hopefully groups of others that come forward, we've been blessed to have some of them, 7 of the 40 that have chosen to make their home in Little Rock. But that wasn't the reason why it was really important to do this with FIS. Is there any FIS employees here? So out in West Little Rock at that time was a campus of about 1,000 employees, all working on legacy technology going back even to 1968 with the founding of Systematics, which created all this. And so we knew that as that technology was being replaced with new technology, that those positions would go away. And so in my very first conversation with Gary, when he asked, what's in it for you? Are you interested in obviously recruiting these companies? I said, yes, but more important is, what's going to happen to those 1,000 folks out there who are all working on old technology, that when the new technology replaces it, they likely will be replaced as well, but replaced somewhere else? I said, that's the biggest part to me. Gary Norcross said, you know, Jay, I think you're right. And he said, I think if we do this right, we can grow that campus, not continue to see it shrink. And today, over 1,300 people work on that campus out there. If you are interested in plugging into the amazing global distribution network of FIS, most, if not all, circumstances require you to come through Little Rock to do that. I'd rather be lucky than good, because that's what this has been every single step of the way. But with a group of people committed who were getting nothing from it, committed to trying to make a difference, not only in this economy, in this community, but in creating the economy that our citizens want for the future, so that our kids and grandkids, which I now have one, have a reason to either come back or stay. So the next time somebody asks you about the tech park and the $28 million expansion that we're trying to put together in this parking lot next door, and yes, we have no clue how we're going to fund that. We had no clue how we were going to fund this. I could tell you that story, but I'd get into Scott's time, so I'm not going to do that. But the next time somebody asks you about the Venture Center and its impact on this economy, or the tech park, if it weren't for the Venture Center, the tech park would have never been successful. We had people writing in the media that it would be a colossal failure. A colossal failure. That it was the dumbest thing they'd ever heard anybody even bring up. And that why would the citizens of Little Rock agree to $22 million of seed financing to create it? What those people in the media didn't realize was opinion research showed us in Little Rock that that's what the people of Little Rock wanted. And every time they wrote about it, it actually helped us. So don't ever let somebody tell you it's stupid. Don't ever let somebody tell you it won't work. We all make mistakes and we all fail. but then we get back up and learn our lessons and move forward. That's what this place represents. And to me, it represents a brighter future than we would ever have, not only without it, but because we're keeping our own and attracting others to a place that people love to call home. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I don't think we have to. Do we have time? Does anybody have a question? I could go on and tell stories forever. Thank you for no questions. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Jay. Great stuff. And just a little fun fact for you guys. So FIS actually started in Little Rock as a company called Systematics in 1968. And that named Jack Stevens, you've seen the building across the street, right? Wrote a guy by the name of Walter Smiley, who was the founder of Systematics, a check for $400,000 right in this building. So it's kind of exciting for these entrepreneurs who are here from all over the globe participating with us to be in the place where really that all began, as Walter Smiley, too, was a great entrepreneur. Jay, thanks. Hey, next I'd like to introduce Scott McGee. How was your lunch, by the way? Everybody like lunch today? Say thank you, Scott. And Scott actually prepared this lunch himself, if I'm not mistaken.
I looked it up about 45 minutes ago.
Awesome. So, as Jay's given us one sort of context, we're looking to Scott today to give us some inspiration. And man, being in the restaurant business, what a tough business. I think highest rate of failure of most businesses, next to, I think, barbershops. I think they fail a little bit faster than, and for me, that you could see that would be an issue. They still charge me the same price they charge everybody else. I don't understand that. But it is a tough business. I frequent Scott's restaurants often. I think I pay the rent of at least one or two of them, so we'll talk more about that. But I would like to read a little bit about Scott as well. So Scott was born in Fayetteville, raised in Little Rock. As a boy, he was inspired to be a cook by both his great-grandmother, Ruby Thomas, of the Red Apple Inn, which I don't know about, but I want to learn more, and his father, Frank McGee, the Blue Mesa Grill and Juanita's. After attending University of Arkansas, Scott was an honors graduate at the California Culinary Academy in San Francisco, followed by a position as line chef at Alice Waters' famed Chez Panisse restaurant in Berkeley. In 1999, he returned to Little Rock and opened the Boulevard Bread Company. I'm sure we've all been there. He also opened Zaza's Fine Salad, who brought us lunch today, and Wood Oven Pizzeria in Little Rock in 2008. Zaza's in Conway, Big Orange, the best burger in town, Local Lime Tacos and Margaritas, Lost 40 Brewing, and of course Heights Tacos and Tamale. With his exceptional partners and team, Scott aspires to continue to develop and open new and exciting restaurants. That's fantastic for all of us. And to be a small part of the success of all the people that are around him. Please welcome Scott McGee. Come on up, Scott.
Now, if y'all are enthusiastic today, I'm going to give everyone a free shake or two. Lots of smiles, lots of interaction.
You guys, let me hand this out.
I think I have enough for everyone to get two. Why don't you pass out one to everyone, and then if there's more, we can do two.
Thank you.
And I have some business cards. I also give out my personal cell phone number to all of my guests, all of my work family. I get don't text me at midnight if you've been cut off at one of our bars. But I got some cards too. I get those calls. I didn't really prepare anything today. I printed off our reorientation sheet that we do a reorientation at all 9 locations 3 times a year, just to connect with our work family. I've actually graduated from the MERM team because team to me just sounds too corporate, and that's kind of not who we are. So it's my work family. I love them. I try to remember all 683 of their names and who their kids are and what's going on in their lives and be a part of their success. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But we, let's see here. First of all, I wanted to just take, where's Jay that just spoke? Are you still here? Jay, I just wanted to tell you that I'm Team Cat. Sorry. I have dogs. They're a pain in the ass. My 3 cats, they have a cat door. They take care of themselves. They poop outside. They're not very needy. They don't cost very much, and they give you a lot of love when they want to. But really, I'm honored to be here. I mean, I love, I love cooking, of course. I love being creative. I love being a big fish in a little pond, a chef, whatever. But the older I've gotten, the more my passions have been shifting over the years. And every day I wake up, and one of my greatest passions is the opportunity for me, especially as many people as I get to interact with every day, is just saying, how can I make a positive influence today? With all the people that I meet, that I'm lucky enough to meet, and the people that I get to run across, and the organizations that I get to work with. And so being a positive force in the community and beyond, on a micro level, a macro level, whether it's a young part of my work family that's looking for direction, looking to get on the right path, looking, and let me back up a little bit. Probably, maybe the most rewarding thing that I do right now, because I do have over 680 employees and more coming with the new locations that we're having in the works right now. In the restaurant business, there's a lot of young people who have not determined what their end game is, what their career is. And they come to us, and a lot of times they come to us with bad habits. And a lot of times they arrive at our door and they are solidly on the wrong road, the wrong path. And so, I don't look for professional chefs to walk through my door. I look for people that are open and that want to learn, and that realize that maybe they can be a part of something, have a good experience, be challenged, and eventually leave me and do something extraordinary with their lives. And so whenever I can get a hold of that 17-year-old that is obviously headed towards a path of destruction, and then teach them the importance, and I call it the big 3. And I used to think this just applied to the restaurant business, but I've now that I'm almost 50 and I deal with a lot of lawyers and doctors and finance people, I'm realizing that it's really everyone. And what I really begin with, and what I really preach to my team, work family, is that if you want to follow your dreams, if you want to reach your goals, if you want to do something extraordinary with your life, it has to start with honesty to yourself and the people around you, sobriety, that's a big one, and positivity. Waking up and learning how to spread a little love and joy and positivity, even if you're having a bad day. And it's those types of people that are promoted rapidly within our system, and that are given raises rapidly, and that we are moving up the ladder rapidly, giving corporate positions at our Yellow Rocket headquarters, and eventually writing great letters of recommendation for when they get amazing opportunities to move beyond us. So seeing that transition of a young person coming in who's clearly headed on the wrong path, and then being able to give them feedback and nurture them and love them and show them appreciation, be patient with them, and then see them over time get on the right path and find happiness, that melts my heart. And that's when I go to bed at night, that's what puts a smile on my face. More so than food. More so than a great burger or taco or pizza or whatever it is we're cooking. I still am very passionate about food and farmers and supporting farm families. It's a huge part of who we are. but really people is what it's all about for me. So before I get into too much more about me, I try to be a good listener. So let me transition from me to you. And just so I'll be very smart and understand where I am and why I am here, is there anyone in here is this a mixture of aspiring entrepreneurs? Is this a networking group? What is this? A mixture? Yeah, so are there a couple people in here that would be willing to share why you're here, or I'm just curious myself.
I think they came from lunch.
Oh, they came from the lunch, okay. Are y'all from the Little Rock area, most of you?
Yes.
And there's some people in here that own businesses and are networking, and some that are developing ideas to start a business. Yes, sir.
I'm Nate Longinati. I work for you at Big Orange.
Oh yeah. Well, let me see. Hold on.
And
Oh hey!
I work for you at Zaza's.
I can see 3 feet in front of my face. So.
I work for you at Zaza's and Big Orange, and now I work with these two ladies in the front, right in front of you,
Oh, awesome.
for a meal prep service called Crave Fuel.
Oh, cool.
Based out of Little Rock. So, I mean, I'm kind of like a prodigy.
Well,
You know, so-
hopefully you were challenged and had a decent experience and learned something.
I have nothing but
And
good things to say about it. So
awesome, I appreciate
we're
it.
trying to do the same stuff.
Well, we try to we hope that people leave us with and that it was a valuable experience, learning experience. So I'm glad you said that. Let's see here. My jeans were clean today when I got up this morning. I was cooking this morning. I've been to 5 locations today. I have 9. And about an hour and a half ago, I was underneath a fryer trying to light the pilot light, laying on a box, a broken down box. And I think that's where these stains came from. But so don't judge me. And let's see. What else do I have here? I guess I'll tell you a little bit about me first, and I do want to just field questions. I'm going to pause a couple times to see if anyone has questions, but if something is really pressing, just raise your hand, and we'll take a little break for a second. But yeah, I'm Scott McGee. I was born in Fayetteville. My father was a fullback on offense and a monster man safety on defense. Played both ways for Frank Boyles in 1969, 1970. He was a star football player for the Razorbacks until he tore his Achilles tendon, which cut his career short. So he only played for a little less than 2 years up there. But I was born in Washington Regional, and I went to the new school up there, if anyone knows Fayetteville. And I moved to Little Rock when I was young. I went through the public school system. I went to Pulaski Heights Elementary, Pulaski Heights Junior High, and Central High School. I graduated in '88, and I had a passion for cooking. My great-grandmother started the Red Apple Inn in Heber Springs, Arkansas in 1963. And my father started Juanita's in 1984. And he also started the Blue Mesa Grill in '89. And I was just surrounded by that. I loved cooking from, since I was 3 years old. I've been, in my great-grandfather's garden, digging out potatoes and picking blackberries and tomatoes and the lady peas and all that. And then I would take that to my great-grandmother's kitchen and help her prepare it. And so at 4 years old, she was teaching me how to patty out cornbread, hot water cornbread, and it's like fried cornbread. And then she would teach me how to lay it into the hot oil in the skillet away from you so you don't splatter hot oil on yourself. So I was learning those lessons when I was 4 or 5 years old. And she was teaching me how to make trout almondine and split pea soup and green tomato pickle and purple whole peas. So she was teaching me all of those things when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. So it never occurred to me that I might be a chef until I went to business school at Fayetteville and University of Arkansas for 2 years, and then it just hit me. I'm in the wrong place, and so I promptly moved to California. I went to the California Culinary Academy and had an amazing experience out there. I lived there for about 8 years, and eventually came back to Little Rock. Opened Boulevard Bread Company in 1999. That's 20 years ago. It seems like yesterday. And I operated that for 10 years, and I actually sold it to Christina Basham about 8 years ago. I'm still one of their biggest supporters. Most of my locations that use bread products buy it from Boulevard, and I get my coffee there every day. And so that's kind of like my child that went away to college and doesn't know me as well as they used to, but it's still my baby. But Zaza is a real passion of mine. I have family in Italy. Io parlo molto buono italiano. Mia famiglia viene da Arezzo, Toscana. Anyone speak Italian in here? No. Anyway, my Spanish sucks, but my Italian's pretty good. But I did food and wine tours in Tuscany twice a year. I took 16 Americans. I did that for about 10 years. So that was a real fun process. But that love of Italian food kind of evolved into Zaza. We do wood oven Napoli style pizza. The salads you just had was a small sampling of some of the things that we sell. And then we make scratch-made gelato every morning, which is Italian-style ice cream. And then Big Orange Burger. I'll just go through real quick. You already did. Big Orange Burger, local line. We have locations in Little Rock and Rogers of both of those concepts. We're probably opening a local line in Germantown and Tennessee. And what else do we have? Heights Taco Tamale. I was raised in Brownings. My father took me there before we went to the Heights Theater. I remember the last movie I saw there was Time Bandits. And we go there and get cheese dip, get that punch that had about 3,000 grams of sugar, and then we go to the movie. And that's back when movie popcorn was good, back in the good old days. And so Brownings, when that came available, Heights Taco and Tamale. Heights Taco and Tamale is essentially my ode to Brownings. It's changing it, it's making it my own, but it's also respecting who they were for 55 years. They opened in the mid-40s. And so I thought it would be blasphemous to turn that into anything other than what we call Arc-Mex. And Arc-Mex is essentially Tex-Mex, but with a lot of Arkansas Delta influence. Hence the Delta tamales, the smoked pork tacos, the fried catfish tacos, those types of things. And so I really wanted to do something new and exciting, but I also wanted to honor all of the happy ghosts that inhabit that building. Then we opened a brewery called Lost 40. It's been wildly successful. We brew some amazing beer. All the credit goes to the brewmasters who are so meticulous and creative, and I really am excited about that. We are about to expand that concept dramatically. We're gonna probably double the seating. We're going to build a giant kitchen in the back that will help facilitate that, and we're going to build a huge outdoor area. So don't tell anyone that. So it's kind of a big secret, but Lost 40 is great, and I'm excited to have a bigger kitchen so I can expand that menu and do some new exciting things. Even though the menu as it stands is a lot of fun. But gosh, what else do I have here? I thought I would before I take a few questions, there's a couple things I want to tell you about my companies. I've opened 13 locations in the last 19 years, all of which are still operating successfully and at a profit. The profit margin is probably not as good as your typical restaurant. We probably put a lot more of our resources into the pockets of our team, work family. And we have incredible benefits in our company. We try, even though restaurants often don't offer large benefit packages because the average employee is less long-term. We do offer significant PTO, and we have a really good insurance program that we offer, and a lot of other HR things that we do. But we do have some just general philosophies and I think that it's critical that, for any large organization that has over 600, 500 employees like us, everything starts with me. And so, number one, if I'm not passionate about the food, if I'm not passionate about people, if I don't love what I do, if I don't work harder than everyone else, if I'm not the one, with my scraper at the front door getting the gunk off the floor, showing my work family that I care, then what kind of message does that send? So I think a huge part of the success of any company, small or large, is that if you're the leader, you better be able to do everything in there better than anyone else, and you need to prove it ongoing. Because just because I know that I'm good and that I paid my dues, if some young 17-year-old that I hired yesterday doesn't know, and I have to prove myself over and over again, and you have to humble yourself and understand that just because you've paid your dues, no one else does. And so these young 17-year-olds that come in, I'll go work right next to them. I'll help them out. When they're down, I'm going to help them up, not kick them in the teeth. And I think that's really important to lead by example. Our guiding philosophy as a group, and this is really, really, really important to me. I learned this from Chef Alice Waters, who I worked for in Berkeley. We treat our work family, and all humans hopefully, with absolute dignity, respect, and kindness, and appreciation. I think I added appreciation in there recently. Treat them with absolute dignity, respect, kindness, and appreciation, no exceptions, all day, every day, no time out. That is absolutely what we demand from me, from our leaders, managers, our work family, top to bottom, right to left. If you cannot treat your work family with absolute dignity, respect, kindness, and appreciation, you cannot work for us. And I think that's Alice Waters at Shape It East. That was her philosophy 25, 30 years ago. That's before the Food Network. That's before the chefs that were screaming in the kitchens, belittling people, making them cry, throwing things at them. That was great TV back in the 80s, and a lot of young chefs kind of learned that's what the chef is supposed to be. And I was very fortunate to be in an environment in Berkeley in the early 90s where I learned that was not the real world, and that you inspire people by treating them right. And just the old adage, you take care of people, they're going to take care of you. And I think that's I think now that it's 2019, I think the world is catching up with what Shape It East was doing 30 years ago. That's it. That's our philosophy. We have other stuff. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. nice today.
We've got about 5, 6.
Oh, great.
Be respectful. So I think I know I've got some questions. I'm sure there's not many people in the audience. Why don't we field some questions? And,
I would like to field some questions now.
all right. James, fire away.
James, what you got?
I loved the Blue Mesa.
Okay.
Probably my favorite restaurant ever. You got any concept of bringing something like that?
Blue Mesa, I was actually involved with developing that. I was 18 at the time, and 17. It was before I went to Fayetteville. My father and I traveled all over Texas and New Mexico, and were developing recipes. Mark Abernathy was involved back then, but less so. Mark Abernathy in the for Juanita's in Blue Mesa, he was front of house, and then once my father got out of those businesses, Mark transitioned to more of a cooking role. But really, my father Frank McGee was the culinary kind of genius behind those concepts when they first opened. So we would spend a lot of time in the kitchen. With the Juanita's cheese dip, we made that. We started making that cheese dip in 1979, and then we tweaked it until 1984 when they opened. That's how long it took him to develop that recipe. The Mesa white cheese dip took us about a year, mostly in his home kitchen with me being the tester. Now Blue Mesa, when I was opening Local Lime, I was really excited about digging those Blue Mesa recipes and dusting the cobwebs off of them, and I couldn't find them. I looked everywhere. My dad had passed away at the time, and I thought maybe they were on an old computer. So I didn't get to use any of those recipes in my brainstorming and development phase of Local Lime. A year after I opened Local Lime, I found them. So I've got all of the original Blue Mesa Grill recipes that are cater wrapped in cellophane and sitting on my bookshelf at home. And they're just kind of sitting there. I also have all the original brownies recipes, same way. I have all the original Taco Kid recipes. And they're all just sitting there waiting for someone to do something with. But the Local Lime, I did try to bring some of those elements in, although Local Lime is not New Mex cuisine, where Blue Mesa was very specifically New Mexican style cuisine, whereas Local Lime is more Cali Mex, authentic Mex. But that was, the Blue Mesa was one of my favorite restaurants. I was the chef there when I was, it's because Mark and my father figured out they could pay me a salary of $10,000 a year and expect 90 hours a week and work. Yeah, that was great. And that's before I went to culinary school. So that was fun times. Any other questions? Yes.
You had to choose one entree out of all the restaurants that explains you the most.
You know, it's a two-part question or answer. First answer is, first off, the question was if there's a dish or something that really epitomizes my style of cooking or who I am at one of my restaurants, what would it be? I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, I love all food. I like everything on planet Earth. I love all cultures. If it's prepared well and the ingredients are exceptional and seasonal, and hopefully they come from local farmers and farm families when possible, I love everything. But my real passion is Southern cooking. And in the vein of Ruby Thomas, I don't consider cheese dip and chocolate gravy Arkansas food. I'm sorry. It is Arkansas food, but those aren't in my top 25. If I'm bragging about Arkansas food, I don't mention chocolate gravy. I think that's silly. And I think cheese dip is fun, but it's Arkansas food to me is, we had field peas And that could be lady peas, purple hull peas, black-eyed peas. And then we had green tomato pickle, which is, we do this kind of sweeter version, kind of like a marmalade, and pone bread. That was kind of like the foundation of our meal 12 months out of the year. And then in the summertime, my great grandmother had almost no meat. She had what's called a summer plate. Thick sliced tomatoes, corn off the cob, sauteed with just for 2 seconds. She would, little new potatoes that she would dig up, fried okra, blanched green beans, sauteed squash or squash casserole. And she would have 10 different farm fresh vegetables on a plate that are just, thick sliced Arkansas tomatoes with just a little bit of salt. You don't need the balsamic or the olive oil or the basil or any of that. She just slapped those tomatoes on the plate. And to me, that is Arkansas food. And that's what I'm passionate about. And I'm also passionate about I like exceptional ingredients that come straight from the farm and supports them and their families. And I like to treat it simply and put it on a plate. My chef Alice Waters, her style of cooking, if we got a peach in, a case of peaches, and it was the best peach we had ever had in 40 years of living, 50, whatever. But and you take a bite of that peach, and you've got peach juice running down your beard, if you have a beard, and then you ever been to a peach and choked? They were so juicy and sweet. Why would you do anything to that other than put it on the plate? There's some beauty in that, and there's integrity in that. And I can make fancy food. I can build it up off a plate. I can make it colorful. I can impress you. But whenever I can, I like to treat things simply and really focus on the ingredients. So that's my answer. Sorry. As far as in my restaurants, gosh, I go to Zaza a lot. I love, my wife's a vegan, so she loves the veggie pizza with no cheese. So we do that pretty often. I love the fried catfish taco at Heights Taco and Tamale. I eat at Local Lime a lot because there's a lot of healthy options there. Gosh, I mean, I can't choose really. I've just got a couple. What I have, like 2 minutes?
Every bit of it. Sure.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So does Yellow Rocket restaurant concepts, they're all created internally, or do you work with outside?
I came up with all the names except maybe one. Zaza. I don't know why I named that Zaza. I was just driving around and I was like, where do people want to go in the middle of the day and have a glass of wine and a pizza and a salad? And I was like, Zaza. So that stuck. Boulevard Break Company, I didn't know what to call that. I walked out to the edge of the street and looked back at the building in the Heights. And I was like, what am I going to call this? And then I looked up at the green sign, Kavanaugh BLVD. And I was like, Boulevard. Sounds good with bread. Big Orange Burger, that one's, people are like, why is it orange? Orange is my favorite color. So, and the burgers, back when I owned the bakery, I developed that bun, and the buns are really big and kind of orange almost, and it just looked like a big orange to me. And gosh, I mean, that's kind of one of the more confusing names. But yeah, Big Orange Burger. Heights Taco and Tamale named itself. Because it was, we were going to do tamales and tacos. It was in the Heights. So when we decided to do that, we had the name within 10 seconds. And Lost 40, there's a huge story behind that name that has South Arkansas ancient roots. There's an area in Calhoun County. There's a real famous forest called the Lost 40. That would take 30 minutes to explain it to you, so I won't. But go to our Facebook page and you can read all about it. And is there another local line? My partner and I read in some magazine about 8 years ago that the #1 selling cocktail on planet Earth was the margarita. And so the inspiration for local line was let's sell margaritas. And so we wanted to do something that was local, and lime is kind of screams margarita. And so that's how that one evolved. But yeah, they're all unique concepts, all developed by me. All the recipes that are made to taste. And it's worth mentioning, for all of you aspiring entrepreneurs, I think this is very significant in the restaurant business, maybe more so than most industries, but I think it's also very, very applicable to all industries, which is if you are not constantly obsessing over and over about, what could be better, what could be 10% better, what could be 1% better, what's played. What was cool 3 years ago, but is not cool now? What's coming down the pipe? What's going to be cool a year from now? Is it too loud in here? Are the chairs uncomfortable? I just spent $140,000 on getting new chairs at all the Big Oranges. Thank you. I just spent $30,000 adding sound-absorbing panels all over Heights Taco Tamale. So every day it's how can we be better? Let's prioritize that and let's execute. And I have anyone that's Zaza's been open almost 12 years. You guys may not know this, but I have changed those salad recipes 43 times. Because every year I do a blind tasting, and then I ask myself, is there 3% too much salt? Could it be 5% better? And so that process is never ending, and I think really good entrepreneurs are always assessing themselves, and also hopefully have a good, honest team giving them exceptional feedback, and hopefully they see that feedback as an incredible gift, because feedback should not offend you, it should excite you. Any other questions? Good.
Okay, it's like, mine is really more of a compliment. It's like,
Oh, well, thank you.
it's a big podcast, and it's like, I think everyone in here probably would agree with me that you are the perfect example of raving success. And I know that you are personally an advocate of social justice, and so that is so inspiring to know that you can be, yes, very successful, you can be very much in the eyes of the public, and then you can stand for treating people the way they should be treated. And I know that you're an active member of.
I'm vocal.
Vocal member of.
My partners don't always appreciate it, but
I applaud you, and I know that many would.
I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. I draw the line when I feel like a group of people are being diminished in some way unfairly, and particularly if we're trying to pass laws in Arkansas that are moving us back in time. So I get a little fired up sometimes. Anyone that follows me on Facebook knows that, particularly my partners who are like, damn, tone it down. And I'm like, nope. But I do have a son who's 16 who came out a year ago. As you can see, I'm a proud dad. And so that was, I spoke during that HB law they were pushing a few years ago. I spoke on the Capitol steps to about 5,000 people. And my son, who had not come out to me at the time, and he had a few friends that were thinking about coming out. He told me that they watched that on Facebook over and over, and that was inspiration to them to come to me and come out. And of course, we cried and hugged, and we talked about the excitement of being able to connect and be advocates and have a safe haven at my house for him and his friends. Obviously there's a lot of good causes in the world. At Yellow Rocket, we're an Arkansas company, and we love supporting organizations. We don't always we don't expect it to be a big marketing bonanza. We do it because we love people, we love our community, and we love doing what's right. So we do have a just say yes policy, and I say that loud and clear. You can take my card, which has my cell phone number, text me, don't call me. But if you need an auction item for a good cause, if you need support, advice, brainstorming, I think I've given some advice to half the restaurants in Little Rock. I don't charge for consulting, and I've been involved with a lot of boards and organizations, so I'm always available to grab a coffee. Love meeting with young aspiring chefs and kind of assessing where are you, where do you want to be, how to get there, and so that's always very fulfilling to me. Any other questions?
One quick one. When you first began, how many times did you fail?
Oh gosh.
Before winning, because you know how it is when you first start business. Sometimes you
I was lucky. In the restaurant business, unfortunately, there's a lot of young cooks that want to go to culinary school for a year and a half, and then they want to open a restaurant, which is a huge mistake, I think. I was very fortunate. I paid my dues for 10 years before I even thought about opening a restaurant, because cooking is a journeyman's trade. When you're a carpenter, after 2 years, you're probably not going to cut your thumb off. After 5 years, you can build something that's pretty cool. After 10 years, you can build something that's really cool. After 20, you're a master. After 30 years, you're even better. Same with the culinary arts, creative side of things. You get better and better and better and better. Until you peel 1 billion freaking potatoes, you're not a good potato peeler. Until you peel 10 billion cloves of garlic, you're not very efficient at it. You're not good at it. And so what a lot of young chefs do is they go to culinary school real quick, they get on the line so they can flash the pans and make a big fire, and then there's a point at which they reach a ceiling, and their heads hit that ceiling pretty hard. And so for young aspiring cooks, don't skip 4 years in the prep kitchen. Don't skip that repetition. Until you butcher, 3,000 sides of salmon, you're not very good at it. Until you butcher 50 whole hogs, you're not very good at it. So I was very fortunate that I went through that process. I was patient. I made $8 an hour living in San Francisco in a flat with 14 roommates, so I could afford it. And so some weeks I ate ramen and peanut butter, and some weeks I had enough money to go out and get 2 or 3 cocktails if I was lucky. But I have not failed yet. Every location I've opened is still, since '99, is still operating successfully. I've failed at a lot of other things, in my personal life, but those were learning experiences. That's right. Is that it?
Hi, John. One quick question. Yeah. So you sold the franchise rights to Zaza's, right?
We sold the franchise rights, but not in this region. And the company that bought them was it was a former CEO of Best Hotel Group, and he got rid of everything. Zaza is about fresh ingredients and farm supported ingredients. That's the whole deal. And it's about the best quality of everything. And so when they purchased the rights and they opened one in Atlanta, number one, it looked like a hotel lobby. Number two, they changed all the recipes to replace the fresh ingredients with things, with commercial things that you could get at Cisco Foods.
Yeah.
And it just completely flopped. We had zero invested. If they would have succeeded, we would have had a nice chunk of it. And this was about 8 years ago this happened. But we learned our lesson. We'll never franchise again. We're only going to chain. We may sell a concept one of these days, or we may not. But yeah.
If you're trying to get in the restaurant business or try to grow, what's your best friend first? Marketing to get yourself like.
The number one driver for success in the restaurant is good food. Period. If the food sucks, you're going to fail. Really good customer service and mediocre food works. There's Chick-fil-A is a good example. I mean, they have mediocre. I mean, I like their chicken okay, but their customer service is insane. God, I don't know what they feed those kids, but they have great customer service. But really, if you have exceptional food, there's a lot of stars that have to align for a successful restaurant. Great food, number one. Great customer experience, which includes customer service. But customer experience is, what does it feel like when you walk in the front door? Are there fingerprints on the glass? Is the music right? Is the temperature right? Is it comfortable? Is the vibe cool? Is the ambiance cool? So customer experience, food, customer experience, which includes clean bathrooms and stuff like that. And then once you get past customer experience, great food, great space, and there's actually one more, but anyway. And then there's a lot of other things beneath that, like accessibility, parking, working out a lease that that doesn't just suck your cash and your overhead and your profitability. A lot of people sign a lease that is where all of your profit is really going to Lou Schickel. No offense. I love Lou's a friend of mine. I say that. That's very, very tongue in cheek. But a lot of young restaurateurs really encourage my young chef friends to bring their leases to me that they're going to sign, because a lot of times they don't understand that there's something called tenant allowance. They don't understand that there's a room to negotiate, and that you can't just give all of your profit to the landlord. Which is really easy to do with the restaurant business. Anyway, I know we're crunched for time, but I wanted to just say I'm going to leave these business cards over on that table. So if anyone wants to ever have a coffee and brainstorm and get some ideas or run something past me, I'm always available. I can always make a 30-minute appointment here and there. I usually meet people at Boulevard of the Heights or Milo Coffee. But so honored for you guys having me out today. Thank you.